question to start, as we do. How many of you, and I need your hands, how many of you love to win? Like you're a competitive person. Okay, pretty much everybody. If you don't, then that's on you. But if you know me for any length of time, you know I love to win. I'm a very competitive person. I'll push you down if I have to win. Like, I don't care if you're 2 foot shorter than me and half my age. We're competing in the same thing. We're on the same level. And so what we're going to look at tonight is in 1 Corinthians chapter 9, and it actually talks about this. Paul is asked a question, and his response is this. This is 1 Corinthians chapter 9, verse 24. He says, "Don't you realize that in a race, everyone runs, but only one person gets the prize?" So look at what he says. He says, so run to win. Paul didn't say, so go out there and just try to finish. He didn't say run just to have fun. He didn't say run to get that participation trophy. So you have right here biblical evidence that participation trophies are stupid. He said run to win. And so to quote the great theologian Ricky Bobby, if you ain't first, you're last. Right? I mean, it's in the Bible, run to win. And so if we're supposed to run this race to win, why is it then that so often, if you're anything like me, it feels like we can't win? It feels like we're not winning. It feels like so many areas of our life are lacking. We have these feelings that, man, it just feels like we're not winning. Spiritually, man, I'm trying to get closer to God, but it feels like I take 2 steps in the right direction and then 3 steps back. Like I can't win. Why does it feel like relationally we can't win? That like all we really desire to have are some good, solid, trusting, loving relationships, but then every time we get close to a friend, they talk about us behind our back. Or every time I get into a relationship, something goes wrong. Why is it that I've been trying to overcome this temptation, but it feels like I can't win? We're trying to think Christ-like thoughts, but yet we're still battling this anxiety. We still worry all the time. And so if it's in the Bible that we're supposed to run to win our race, why aren't we winning? And the answer for so many of you is this. The answer is that you've been trying for too long. You've been trying for too long. It's very common among Christians to live what is called the theology of trying. Right? I'm going to try to get close to God. I'm going to try to read my Bible more. I'm going to try and start praying consistently every day. I'm going to try and control my temper a little bit better and be more patient. Or I'm going to try to stop procrastinating. I'm going to try and eat better. I'm going to try and cut down on my screen time. I'm going to try and stop vaping. I'm going to try and stop watching porn. I'm going to try and stop drinking every weekend. I'm going to try and stop making excuses. The problem for so many people is that you've been trying for too long. And so what I want to do tonight is to bring a very powerful change to our perspective. Right? And this comes straight from God's word. And I want to try and help you change the way we think about change. Because this whole series that we're in is about the power to change. And so we're going to look at tonight that perspective is everything. And changing our perspective is all over Scripture, and it's right there for us. But before we look at this, I want to go back and review a little bit of where we've been throughout Spring Fling in our messages, because these things have been building on top of each other. So week 1, when we started, we talked about how real and lasting change is not behavior modification, it's spiritual transformation. Right? Because if you change the behavior, but you don't change the heart, the behavior is going to come back. It's not behavior modification, it's spiritual transformation. And so in that, we talked about our identity. Why do you do what you do? Well, the number one reason why you do what you do is because of what you think of you. And so we've been building these principles. And so week 1, we had our spiritual who. Who do you want to become? Who is God calling you to be? And then in part 2 of this series, we identified our spiritual why. Why is that who God is calling me to be? Why is that who I want to become? Do I want to get in shape and eat better just so I can get more likes on my posts when I go to the beach? Or do I want to honor God with the body that He's given me? Why do I want to have a successful career and lots of money? Is it so I can go buy whatever I want? Or is it so I can be faithful to God and give back and show radical generosity? And then in part 3, we identified our spiritual what. And that was all about our habits. And in that message, we answered the question that based on who you want to become, what one habit do you need to start? And so we looked at starting and forming good, Christ-honoring habits. And then the last time we were in this series, we looked at a spiritual what not. And these were the habits that we need to break, and we answered the question, based on who you want to become, what one habit do you need to break? What's holding you back from being that who that God is calling you to be? And so tonight we're adding one more thought to those before we conclude in 2 weeks of this series. And so tonight we're adding a spiritual how. How should we think about the power of God to change our lives? It's a change in our mindset. Why do we continue to struggle? Why do so many of us want to change but can't do it? Why do we year after year after year after year make the same resolutions, set the same goals, and never meet them? Why are we not winning? It's because we've been trying for too long. And so here's what I want to tell you tonight. I want to encourage you tonight, and this is straight from God's Word. It's to stop trying and start training. Stop trying over and over and over again and actually start training to become who God is calling you to be. And I want to show you this idea in Scripture. Right? That verse that we read about running to win. When Paul writes this to the Corinthian church, they would have loved this. Because, man, these jokers were competitive. Right? So they would have loved hearing run to win. Like, they all would have put their hands up. Yes, I love to win. They're leaning in. They're like, all right, I'm in. Why? Well, because in Corinth, for those of you that aren't, geology like scholars, it's a city in Greece. And in Greece, every 4 years, they hosted something called the Olympic Games. And every 2 years in Corinth, they held another local competition known as the Isthmian Games. And so they weren't just satisfied with the Olympics every 4 years. They had their own every 2 years because these guys just loved competition. And so in these Isthmian Games, these local games in Corinth, these were kind of a mini Olympics. And there were all kinds of interesting sports and competitions in here. They had chariot racing, they had boxing, they had wrestling, and poetry contests. And what does a poetry contest in the Olympics look like? I have no idea. But these guys were just out there like having rap battles without the beat, I guess. But they had poetry contests. And so the Corinthians are all about this metaphor when Paul says this. Right, look back at what he said. He said, don't you realize that in a race, everyone runs, but only one person gets the prize. So run to win. Now watch what he doesn't say in verse 25. Right, he doesn't say all athletes are disciplined in their trying. Right, look at what he said. He said all athletes are disciplined in their what? Training. In their training. He goes on to say they do it to win a prize that will fade away. Because the prize back then for all of these competitions was like a wreath that you got to wear. So it would literally wither up and die. Like it would literally fade away. But Paul says, but we do it for an eternal prize. So I run with purpose in every step. He says, I'm not just shadow boxing. I discipline my body like an athlete, training it to do what it should. Stop trying and start training. So a little bit more context about what these Olympics at this time looked like. when he says to discipline your body like an athlete. Well, athletes at this time were incredibly disciplined with their body. If they're going into the Olympics, they went into this 10-month intensive training regimen. And during this time, they had a strict diet, right? They consumed 0 alcohol, no junk food. And oddly enough, get this, the runners, when they would train and would run in these competitions completely nude. And this was in no way like a sexual thing. They just did this because this showed the purity of the body, and they didn't want nothing slowing them down. Because how badly do they want to win? Badly enough that this shirt is going to slow me down at all is coming off. That's the way these guys were. They were that competitive. And now if I'm a runner and everybody's naked, that's given me some extreme motivation to get out in front of this race very quickly, and I'm going to do whatever it takes to stay there because I don't want to be running behind all that junk. And so, and now the wrestlers, the way they would practice was they would go out into extreme temperatures. Right? I'm talking over 100 degrees in the summer. They go out in the heat of the day and they practice. And then in the winter, they go out and they practice in the snow, like the most extreme temperatures. And some articles on these guys that were wrestlers said they would even practice against bulls. Some of them would wrestle horses and even lions. And so again, if this is me, I'm going to compete in poetry. Because I ain't wrestling lions. That's a level I don't want to be on. And I'm keeping my clothes on. So I'm going to just compete in poetry. So I get it. When you look at Scripture, right, and let's say for us, if we want to be more godly, we want to be closer to God, Scripture never tells us to try. The Bible never says try to be godly. The Bible never says try and honor God with your faith. It doesn't say try to be more disciplined. Right? It said, look at what 1 Timothy chapter 4, verse 7 says. It says, instead, train yourselves to be godly. Physical training is good, but training for godliness is much better, promising benefits in this life and in the life to come. Training, not trying. I like what Dallas Willard said, this quote, we are not trying to be different people, but we are training to become different people. So I'm not trying anymore. We're changing our perspective to say, I'm training. I'm not trying, I'm training. You're going to say, okay, but what's really the difference between trying and training? So let's break it down and make it simple. So when I say stop trying, why? Well, look at what trying really is. Trying is an attempt to change with pretty minimal commitment. Right? Because let's be honest, when you say you're trying, it means I'm going to kind of put a half-hearted attempt into it, and if it happens, great. If it doesn't, cool. Like, you've already got your excuse there, like, I'm just trying it. If it doesn't work, okay, I can quit at any time. Like, if I'm trying to do something, it means I might not and probably won't. It gives us permission to fail because we've already given ourselves a way out. I'm going to try to read the Bible, but I don't. I'm going to try to be nice, but they weren't, and so then I wasn't back to them. I'm going to try and not eat this whole cake at my birthday party, but I did anyway. Because trying is an attempt to change with pretty minimal commitment. Training, on the other hand, it's a whole different mindset. Because what is training? Training is a wholehearted commitment to achieve a specific result. So you have a very specific result in mind, and you're giving your wholehearted commitment to achieve that result. It's a commitment designed to bring this specific result. And you know the difference. Like when you're just trying, you just got to show up and hope to do better. But when you're really training, it changes the way you approach everything. Let me give you 2 thoughts on what it looks like when you're training. Right? When you're training, you get the gear. Right? And so if you're going to be a runner and you're committed, you're going to train, you go out and you buy the top-end running shoes. You buy the socks with the extra padding on them. You get the little short shorts so everybody can see your legs when you run. Like you get the watch so you can time yourself and know how fast your mile is. Like you get the hat, you got the water bottle, and if you're like for real committed, you get the little fanny pack because you're going to be out there all day just running because you're committed. Or if you're training yourself to be more organized, like this is the year, you get the gear, right? You've got your daily planner. You've got every color marker, every color pen, every color highlighter. You've got stickers, and you've got a binder with like inserts in it because you're going to be organized. So when you're training, you're committed enough that you go and you get the gear. The second thing that you see when you're planning is that you create a game plan. Like if you know the movie Rocky, like he doesn't just show up and fight Apollo without training. He's got a game plan. He's going to put on Eye of the Tiger. He's going to run up the stairs and like do the whole thing because he's not trying. He's in training. And so if you're in training to change, to become the person God wants you to become, that spiritual who that you should have identified, you get the gear. You get a game plan. Right? You go buy a book on whatever it is that maybe you want to see the change in your life. You watch a YouTube video on somebody giving you tips on how to make this change. You download an app that's going to hold you accountable and send you little reminders. You buy a gym membership. You find a mentor or a trainer. Or you just dedicate time to this thing. Because you're not just trying, you're training. I'll give you an example from my life. So Michaela and I recently started playing tennis the other day. New hobby we're picking up. And she'd never played before. She just thought this would be fun. But for those of you that don't know, fun fact, I played in high school. And so I went back and I found all of my gear. Because when I played, I was committed. Right? I wasn't just out there trying. I was training. And the reason was because I only played for like 2 years at the end of high school. Before that, I was like football and basketball only. Tennis was like lame and I can't do that. Like, I'm too cool. But then it really looked fun and I was like, I kind of want to play tennis. And so when I started this, everybody was like, bro, you're going to be terrible. Like, you can't do this. But I went out and I said, I'm going to get the gear. Because I'm not trying, I'm training. And so I went back and I found my gear. And so, as you can see, I got the bag because I got the gear. And it's even got my name on it because I'm committed to this. I'm not just trying, I'm training. So if we look in here, we see what we got. Because again, I'm committed. So I got the shirt, it's lightweight. It's going to like be breathable so I can like move around and like be sporty. So I got the shirt because I'm committed. Not trying, I'm training. I also got the shorts. But you see, these weren't like short enough to like really be a tennis player. So we would roll these bad boys up and again like really show off our legs when we're playing. My bag's flimsy. So I got the shorts because I'm training. Also you got to have special shoes when you're playing tennis. Even though everybody just calls every shoe a tennis shoe, it's not. You got to have special tennis shoes because they got all this extra rubber on them. Because we're not trying, we're training and we're committed to this. I got my racket, and as you can see, this has been used because this used to be white, but I got the gear. And I even got one that's got like this little brush guard on it. So if I like really went down to get one, it would like not hurt the racket. This is actually the second one because I smashed one because I got mad. But I got the gear because I'm training. Also got I got the little pullover because we played in the winter sometimes and it got cold. And believe it or not, I used to fit in that joint. And so I got the gear because I'm not trying, I'm training. You had to have special socks. Again, extra padding because when you're running all day, your feet start hurting if you just wear any old sock. So I had to get the special socks to go with the special shoes because I'm not trying, I'm training. Also, had to get some swag. So I had a headband, keep the sweat out of my eyes because, I always had to have a hat on and I couldn't wear a hat. So I wore a headband because I'm cool and I wanted to look intimidating. And so imagine all that plus this, I was intimidating. And so there you have it because I wasn't trying, I was training. And so what did I do? I got the gear because I was committed. Now I didn't just have the gear, I had a plan. And my plan was that I'm going to train with my dad because he played in high school. He's good. And so I trained with him, and all summer leading up, I trained with some of the teammates that I was friends with because they were a lot better than me and they'd played a long time. I went and I had private lessons with a trainer because I was not trying, I was training. And so for us, and when we know who God wants us to become, we're not trying. We're not just going out there and hoping to change. We're not just waking up every day doing nothing different and expecting a different result. We're training. If we want to be close to God, trying is not enough. You've got to train yourself and be disciplined for godliness. So when you're training, you get the gear and you get a plan. So if you want to get close to God, get the gear. Download the Bible app. That should be the first thing you do. You should already have it on your phone. I think it just like comes on there now because everybody's got it. But if you don't, start there. Find yourself like a prayer app that like sends you things to pray for or reminds you to pray. Buy a book. Crazy thing. They're still out there. They make books. Buy a book. Get you some like Jesus merch. Like we got some here for Golden Acres, or just like get you a cool Christian t-shirt because you got to get the gear. Buy a journal. Take notes. I mean, look at all these people taking notes because they got the gear. They're not trying to be closer to God. They're training. They got the gear. They're taking notes. Make yourself a little worship playlist so that way you can be in the mindset. Get the gear. And then get a game plan. Say, man, I'm not going to miss church. Every Wednesday, I'm there. Even if I have to leave practice early. I'm going to be there because I'm committed. I'm going to serve when the opportunity presents itself because I want to use the gifts that God has given me. Not just trying to be more like God, but really training myself. I'm going to come on Sunday mornings and not just sleep in on the weekends. Not say Wednesday night's enough, but I'm going to really train and commit myself to this, and I'm going to be there Sunday morning at 9 a.m. because I want to study God's Word. And in fact, I'm going to study God's Word every other day of the week. Are you reading your Bible? Are you praying daily? Get a game plan. Are you journaling, writing out what God is doing in your life, what He's leading you to? Because we're not trying, we're training. Because when you're trying, you give up if it gets hard. Or when you don't feel like it. Because I never really committed to that anyway. But when you're training, you don't just act according to your feelings, you act according to your commitments. When you're an athlete, or just a competitor in anything, you're a disciple of Jesus. You're fighting for something that matters. You have a vision, you have a goal, you have a dream. Trying, apart from training, becomes unthinkable. Because we're not just going to try to be godly, we're going to train ourselves to serve God in every part of our life. It's a complete change in our mindset. And this is what Paul says again. Don't miss this. This is, again, 1 Corinthians chapter 9. Those last two verses that we read, 26 and 27. He says, so I run with purpose in every step. Not just shadow boxing, not just going through the motions, but I discipline my body like an athlete, training it to do what it should. He identifies it. That spiritual who. I'm going to discipline my body like an athlete. Then he says, training it to do what it should. Not just hoping that I'll do the right things, not just trying to do the right things, but training my body to do what it should. Getting the right habits, breaking the wrong ones. Because is your body your master, or is the power of God through you stronger than the wrong desires that are in you? I discipline my body like an athlete, training it to do what it should, because I'm not trying, I'm in training. I've got the gear, I've got a plan, and I'm training. So when I'm training, I'm not trying and hoping to become something that I'm not. Like I didn't show up and say, well, I'm going to try to play tennis. I know I'm just a football player. I got no idea what I'm doing. I'm just going to show up and try and hang in there and compete with these guys. I didn't do that. I said, man, I'm training. And when you're training, your mindset changes to that. I'm going to get better at what God says I already am. I'm not trying. I'm training. So whatever it is for you, you want to be a better athlete, don't try. Change your mindset to say, man, I'm a great athlete in training. I may not be there yet, but I know that I can be, and I'm just in training. You want to be a better student. Don't say, man, I'm going to try and be better. Say, no, I'm a great student in training. You want to start being a better friend. Don't say, man, I'm going to try and speak nicely about people. I'm going to try and be there and actually care about what these people say. No, tell yourself, I'm a godly friend in training. I'm going to go out of my way to be there for people, to discipline myself, to do what God is calling me to do. I'm not going to school every day trying to be more popular. I'm training myself to please God with a life of righteousness. Because I'm not trying. I'm training myself to become who God says that I am. So every week there's a goal, and every week there's a question. So the question for you this week is this, and let me set it up. Because you're not trying to become something that you're not. You're training to become who God already sees that you are. And so here's the question. Based on who you want to become, how are you going to train? Are you going to get the gear? Are you going to get a game plan? Or are you going to continue to just try? Continue to just hope that things change? Or will you commit to training, disciplining yourself, doing things differently, making changes to see changes? Not trying, training. I'll give you one last example that I really like. And it uses the belts that you receive in jiu-jitsu. Not that I ever do jiu-jitsu, but if you watch UFC, anytime they go to the ground, that's jiu-jitsu. And so you get belts. And the belts that you get, they have levels, and they go white, blue, purple, brown, and black. If I was to ask you, just say, hey, what do you think the hardest belt to get is? Yeah, that's most people's response. But I read this thing by this guy who owned a jiu-jitsu gym. He's like a pro. And they asked him again, what's the hardest belt to get? He said it's not black. That's what everybody says, but the hardest belt to get is white. And why? Because most people never show the commitment to even start. That's the hardest one to get because it means you're committing to start, to show up. You say, okay, then what is a black belt? But they asked him that, and he said, a black belt is just a white belt who never stopped training. Who never stopped training, who never stopped showing up and committing themselves to the work that was in front of them. Not just showing up and trying and hoping to see change and hoping to advance, but really training. So I'm not trying, I'm training. I'm not trying to reach more people for Christ. I'm training myself to be more like Christ. I'm training myself for godliness. When you wake up every single day, you need to know who God is calling you to be. You need your spiritual who. You need your spiritual why. Why do I want to see this change? To glorify God and live a righteous life that leads people to Him. You need your spiritual what? The habits that you're starting to become more of who God says that you are. The habits that you're breaking, that you need to get rid of, the things that are holding you back from that who that God is calling you to become. And now you know what to do and how to train to be more of who God already says that you are. It's not trying, it's training. To go back to my tennis career, to show you something else. So this is a plaque that we got at the end of the year at our little banquet. And it shows our record for our career. I got this one as a senior. And for a guy that just picked up the game, I was incredibly proud of my record. I went 28-9 in 2 years. And that's not like a stellar record. But listen, winning was not just a championship for me. It wasn't just competing and reaching a certain amount of wins For me, I was winning just by showing up and training, because I was doing the thing that I had set myself. That was the goal. And so for you, you're not winning, you're not successful when you hit this goal in the future. You're winning when you show up and you train for righteousness and you honor God today. It is a daily challenge. It's not something that you can't reach until the end of your life. No, you win just by showing up and committing yourself to the training. Not trying, but training. Training to be who God has created us to be. And so based on who you want to become, what are you going to do to train? Get in the gear, make a plan, and show up. And let God empower you through that to become more of who He already says that you are. Because you're not trying to be something else or someone else. You're training to be the person that He has created you to be. And so during this time, start now. Use this time to start as your first point of commitment. Not just trying and hoping for change, but I'm going to get on my face and just pray to God. I'm going to cry out to Him. I'm going to stand and I'm going to worship, because I'm committing myself to this. And you fill in that blank. Who is God calling you to become? How are you going to get there? Is it time for you to stop trying? Stop wishing, stop hoping, and really start committing yourself and training to become who you want to become. There's leaders in this room that will be there for you, that will pray for you, that can talk with you through things if you're struggling and help you through these things. But use this time. Respond however God is leading you to respond. Because maybe you've just been trying to go through life and figure it out on your own. To beat these temptations, to do this thing on your own. And maybe tonight you just need to stop trying and start training yourself and just submitting your life to God. Saying, like, I'm done trying, because when I try, it doesn't work. I'm not winning. And so if I want to run this race to win, I've got to start by just submitting my life to Christ and letting Him take over and train me to be who He's calling me to be. And so maybe that's your first step tonight. But whatever it is for you, however the Lord is leading you to respond, you do so during this last time.